We're breaking down the anatomy of a real champion. We're going to deconstruct exactly how Mikel Arteta's Arsenal finally ended their grueling Premier League title drought in the 2025-26 season. We're talking the data, the massive tactical shifts, and those underlying numbers that turned a team of perennial contenders into completely ruthless, undeniable champions. If you want to understand the modern blueprint for total football dominance, and you want to see exactly why brilliant strategic execution beats out individual flair, well, you're in exactly the right place. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. 22. That is the number of years the Arsenal fan base waited since the Invincibles campaign way back in 2003-04. 2 decades just living in the shadow of their own immortality. But what makes this number feel even heavier is the immediate context leading up to the triumph. Think about this. Since the start of the 2022-23 season, Arsenal spent a staggering 562 total days at the top of the Premier League table without ever actually crossing the finish line first. That's literally 207 more days than any other club in that same exact time frame. I mean, the psychological weight of that, it could absolutely break a team. But instead, it forged them.
To understand how they finally got over the line, we have to look at the absolute foundation. Pillar 1, the ultimate defensive wall. This wasn't just a good defense, guys. It was a historically dominant collective machine. To put it into perspective, this Arsenal side literally outran their opponents in 35 out of their 37 matches. Just look at the staggering gap in the data. Arsenal conceded a mind-blowing 26 goals all season, and the underlying numbers are even more impressive. Their expected goals against, which measures the actual quality and likelihood of the chances they gave up, was a mere 27.32. They faced an unbelievably low 87 shots on target across the entire campaign. Compare that to Manchester City, who faced 122. At the heart of all this was that imperious center-back pairing of William Saliba and Gabriel. Their positioning was so supreme that Arsenal allowed chances worth only 0.74 expected goals per game. That is quite literally one of the best defensive figures ever recorded. And well, when opponents did somehow manage to break through, they ran straight into a brick wall. 19. That's the number of clean sheets David Raya secured. This incredible feat earned the Spaniard his 3rd consecutive Golden Glove and matched the all-time club record held by the legendary David Seaman. Now, Raya wasn't the busiest keeper in the division, for sure, but his absolute pinpoint concentration and reflex stops at key moments were vital. Because of this unyielding defensive solidity, Arsenal were able to just grind out 8 incredibly tense, nail-biting 1-0 victories over the course of the season. Games where literally a single slip-up would have meant total disaster. But a great defense in modern football also has to kickstart the attack, right? Enter Jurrien Timber and Ricardo Calafiori. Both of these guys shook off previous injury issues to become probably the most improved fullback duo in the league. Timber generated 28 shot-creating actions, meaning passes, tackles, or dribbles leading directly to a shot, mostly through these super aggressive overlapping runs. Calafiori, on the other hand, provided 19, often staying out wide to stretch the defense instead of constantly tucking inside. Together, they racked up 37 progressive carries. They operated brilliantly as huge attacking threats while still securing 5 clean sheets in their opening 8 games alone.
That incredibly solid base basically allowed Arsenal to weaponize other areas of the pitch. Which brings us to Pillar 2, a set-piece cheat code.
If you were at an Arsenal match this season, you absolutely heard the supporters breaking into those impromptu chants of "set piece again, ole ole." They literally turned dead ball mastery into a fundamental part of their tactical identity. They took marginal gains and turned them into massive points. Arsenal scored a Premier League record 18 goals from corners this season, totally shattering the old record set back in 1993. But it's not just the sheer volume that matters, it's the timing. Out of those 18 corner goals, 14 of them provided a crucial 1-0 lead. When games were tight, when those stubborn low blocks were frustrating their open play rhythm, Arsenal didn't panic. They simply waited for a corner.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is you can have all the tall, physical players in the world, but the ball has to be absolutely perfect for a set piece to work consistently. Notice the consistency of the delivery right here. Declan Rice provided 8 assists from corners, mostly with his sweeping in-swingers, while Bukayo Saka added 6 with his left foot. Throw in Noni Madueke with 3 and Martin Odegaard with 1, and you see the whole picture. They fueled this chaotic near-post rush strategy, with players darting from the back post to the front in total unison. It caused absolute mayhem in the 6-yard box, and mercilessly exposed the fatal flaws in their rivals' marking systems.
So, we've got the defense and we've got the set pieces. But to truly dominate, you have to control the center of the park. Let's explore Pillar 3, unlocking the engine room. This season, we saw a fascinating tactical evolution from Mikel Arteta, shifting his midfield structure to turn Arsenal from perennial title contenders into ruthless champions. For years, Arteta relied really heavily on a traditional 4-3-3 system. It was effective, for sure, but sometimes it got a little predictable against elite opposition. This season, his clearest strategic shift was a willingness to play a fluid 4-2-3-1 with a double pivot. That basically means two defensive midfielders operating side by side in the center. This structure gave the team significantly better balance, shielding the backline while giving the attacking midfielders total freedom to just float into pockets of space.
The definitive key that unlocked this entirely new system was the arrival of Martin Zubimendi. Signed from Real Sociedad for £60 million after a deal that was essentially a year in the making, the Spanish international was the absolute watershed moment for Arsenal's engine room. He walked in and immediately dovetailed perfectly with Arsenal's existing stars, playing as a true number 6 with just incredible poise, vision, and tempo control.
The ripple effect of Zubimendi's arrival was immense. With him anchoring the midfield, Declan Rice actually dropped slightly deeper into that double pivot partnership. Why does this matter? Well, because it allowed Rice to utilize a seriously underappreciated weapon in his arsenal, his early long-range passing. By hitting these quick, super accurate balls out wide, Arsenal consistently isolated Bukayo Saka in one-on-one situations. It elegantly solved that recurring, super frustrating problem of their star winger being immediately double-teamed the exact second he touched the ball.
Which brings us to our final tactical pillar, and honestly, maybe the most important concept in the modern game, Pillar 4, mastering the transition. Elite European football is no longer just about how much possession you have. It's all about the exact seconds after possession changes hands. Transition control is defined as dominating those immediate seconds after the ball is lost or recovered. Arsenal achieved this by ruthlessly limiting their opponent's time, space, and passing options. Their pressing wasn't just headless chasing, right? It was highly coordinated preparation. They set pressing traps well in advance so that the moment the ball was turned over, the opponent's forward passing lanes were already blocked, forcing them into rushed, really low-value decisions.
And this brilliantly illustrates transition dominance in numbers. Arsenal's execution here was simply staggering. They won possession in the final third 177 times this season. Crucially, their rest defense, which is basically how players position themselves defensively while their team is actually attacking, was so insanely compact that opponent counterattacks were completely nullified before they even started. Interestingly, this total dominance often made matches feel tight and kind of uncomfortable for fans in the stands, mostly because the game lacked that open, chaotic, end-to-end feel of previous eras. But from a purely tactical perspective, it was absolute, suffocating control.
So, the crucial point is, how does this suffocating style impact the goal scorers? Well, look at this number, 14. That is the total number of league goals scored by Arsenal's top striker, Viktor Gyökeres. Just 14. To put that in perspective, that is the lowest tally for a Premier League champion's top scorer since İlkay Gündoğan back in 2021, and before that, Frank Lampard all the way back in 2005.
This is what we can call the striker anomaly. In past decades, a champion usually needed a marquee player banging in 25 or 30 goals to drag them to a title. But in Arteta's 2025/26 system, 14 was perfectly enough because of their historic defense, their absolute mastery of set pieces, and their stifling transition control. Gyökeres didn't have to carry the entire attacking burden on his shoulders. His immense physical presence, his clever link-up play, and that ruthless edge inside the box perfectly served the collective system. The goals were spread out, and the defense ensured every single goal carried maximum weight.
So after deconstructing all these tactics, the question inevitably shifts from the present to the future. Are we looking at the next Arsenal dynasty?
A massive indicator of their staying power is their ruthless consistency against the rest of the league. I mean, Arsenal took an astonishing 53 points against teams in the bottom half of the table this season, completely proving their tactical dominance. But while the numbers are fascinating, the emotional release is what football is truly about. Arsenal legend Ian Wright totally hit the nail on the head, capturing the sentiment of millions when he simply stated, "This is what we dreamed of." It was such a raw, unfiltered reaction from a fan base absolutely starved of glory, finally getting to watch their team climb back to the absolute summit of English football, totally shedding the ghosts of the past 2 decades.
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought. With the era-defining Pep Guardiola departing Manchester City and Mikel Arteta winning the Premier League at just 44 years old, making him the second youngest manager to ever do so, the entire landscape of English football is completely shifting.
Arteta's meticulous, brick-by-brick building process has finally yielded the ultimate prize. Will this tactical framework lead to sustained, unshakable domination throughout the rest of the 2020s?